Okay, let's see. We are about to begin. Okay, yeah. Welcome. We are going to do some exercises on. We are going to continue doing some exercises. All of you are very welcome. I hope you have enjoyed the previous transmissions. And now we have to continue with other parts. You have remember that if you have any question or suggestion, you may write up on the chat. There's also a channel for YouTube. I'm going to look for a way to place the link on my profile. And well, let's continue. The last part we were talking about the switch and the way of how we can handle the workflow of our application. This is the basic way to do a switch. You don't need to. There's another way. If you are doing your code on C# 8 or C# 9, you also have another way to do this. And this way is by using an abbreviation. Let's see. We have this for my object. Now imagine that I want the string that we are going to use. I'm going to copy this. And now I'm going to comment it. And let's change it. I'm going to add another. Well, I'm going to place here the same code. Simplified switch syntax. Okay. Now this is the situation string result message. Okay. Message. Now we have for this we are able to do message equals my object switch. Okay, this is going to work this way. This is I have my object. You remember that has a value here. So my object equals 4, for example. Okay. No. My object, my original string. And then we have here message is going to be equal to the evaluation of the switch. So my object is the input parameter for the switch, and then instead of writing up the name of each one of the cases, we are able to do the following. We are going to remove the word case and just keep the data type my string, and then we are going to use something that has the name of lambda. A lambda is equals greater than and then we are going to return this one. This lambda means that this section is going to return something. So the return for this is only the string. My object is a string with the value. We don't have to write up the break. The other case is going to be the same. We remove this string builder, lambda. My object is a string builder. The default, well, for this situation, the default is underscore lambda, and then the value that this is going to return. Remove the break, and then null lambda, the string that this is going to return, and remove the break. Okay, this is a very simplified way to do a switch. Let's move to our examples folder, exercises, exercise 1, selection statements, .NET build. Okay. Now for this case, we have this is a very strange way to see a switch. If you've been working on with programming on C# and doing some stuff on .NET, this is very weird because you are used to seeing another parts. I lack a semicolon, line 130. My object 43. There's the semicolon. I don't understand what's going. Okay. We don't need we don't need the semicolon. We just need a comma. So instead of this, we remove and change comma, and that doesn't need that. And the end that switch is the one that needs the semicolon. Okay, we should call this behaving where, yeah, the colon is the one differentiates between one sentence and another, or one switch case and another, and the way you are going to validate. You don't need the semicolon here. You just need at the end of the curly braces of this switch, and this one keeps this way. Now it must work. Clear screen. Oh, come on. When you need that your application works faster, it doesn't do it. Come on. Come on, come on. Okay. .NET build. Let's see. Compiling. Pattern. You are not able to access this pattern. Okay, I'm going to remove the null. I'm not sure why. I think that for this case, you have always to use the default at the end. That's a rule. I don't remember why. Let's see. This. You don't have nothing like go to or anything like in the previous example. The example of the previous streaming. But I don't remember. I don't use it this way because sometimes it's confusing. As I told you, if you have been working or developing on .NET for more than maybe 2 years, 3 years, yeah, that's the situation. Well, you are not used to see this kind of code. It's not a normal notation, but it works. And as I told you, the default case for this notation, the default case always must be at the end. You are not able to use uh, to place the default case at the beginning or in the middle. It must be always at the end. So what's going to do here? We are going to just write up console.greatline message. So this is going to do, okay, message equals the return of the whole sentence. So my object has a switch case or a switch situation where if this is a string, it's going to return with the lambda. My object is a string with value. If it's a string builder, you are able, in this case, you are able just to remove this. And lambda returns my object is a string builder. Null, my object is null. And this one. Let's just be sure net run. Let's see. Doesn't run. This is taking its time. Hello world. My object is a string with the value my original string. If I create it as a string builder, then I can set my object to a new string builder. Okay, we should do this really low today. Really slow. Okay. Run. My object is a string builder. In this one, it shows my original string value, and for this one is a string builder. Let's see if I just copy and paste the same value. It's not going to change the output, but this is just to show you that it doesn't matter if the string builder is an empty string or a string that has a real value. And well, so this is the way, and this way works better for when you need to assign something because you have to use the lambda expression, and this lambda means return. So for this case returns this value. This case returns this value, and you don't have to use too much lines. You just need one line. If you are able to perform the validation on one line, then that's okay for you. I repeat, I don't use it this way. So I'm going to keep the application this way. And now I'm going to create another another folder. So md03 loops. Okay, screen 03. Let's change to 03 loops. And you see here we have created operational variables and selection statements. Now let's move forward to loops. Okay, Visual Studio Code is really slow. Okay, done. Okay, loops. And then we are going to create a new console application. And again, the way to do it by command line is .NET new console. You're going to see here that we are going to have new things, new files. Hmm. Now we have the program C#, and I'm going to close everything else. And I'm going to open program.css from this new project, loops. We have the hello world. So loops is the way to read the information from somewhere or try to do trying to do something like a, a review or a validation, or when you need to look for information on some places that you already know that exist, for example, or sometimes when you need to get values according to an increasing or decreasing uh, situation. Let's open an example, and I think that with example this is going to be more clear. Here. So for this case, the first loop that we are going to talk about is the while. We have the while. So the while has a condition. Int counter equals 1. Okay, so while, this is the reserved word for this loop, while, and then you have to place a condition. For example, counter less than 5. Okay, what what are we going to do for this case? Okay, we are going to console dot write line value right now equals, then we are going to use it. No, okay, it's very slow. Understand why it should still does this. Okay, counter. And then what we are going to do? Well, counter. We need, if we have a condition, and that condition is going to keep the loop alive, or your application is going to be out of that loop. For this case, it's the sentence while, and between parentheses you have to write a condition. If this condition is true, then this is going to do the things that are into the curly braces. If it doesn't, then the application continues. So I'm going just to write up console write line, the loop has ended. The while loop has ended. There are several of them. The first one is the while. Let's see. While loop example. The other one, it's the do while. Then we have the for, and the last one is a special for each loop example. Okay, so now I have the while loop example. The while is, you have to write the while and counter and the condition. For this case, counter must be less than 5 and it can continue. If you don't, you have to validate that this is not going to be infinite, and for that I mean that this condition, you know that at some point of your execution of your application, this is going to be false. So how are we, if we don't do anything, this is going to happen the whole way, and this application is never ends. So for this case, we are going to place counter equals counter plus 1. And if you remember, you will be able to how to change this using a unary operator in order to increase the value of counter. So clear screen .net run. Let's see how many times it's going to write up. Semicolon, missing semicolon. Okay, I have this. Miss this. .NET run. Now I need to answer some messages. Give me a second, and there we go. Sorry, but I had to answer that message. So now we have this. We have counter equals 1, and then while this situation is true, counter less 5. Right now, at the first time, counter equals 1. So counter equals 1. Is counter less than 5? Yes. So right line value right now equals counter. So that's why we have value right now equals 1 to counter. Just give me a second. Value right now 1. Then counter equals counter plus 1. It converts 2. And now while again validates this value. Counter equals 2. Counter less than 5? Yes. So rise up to 2 and continues 2, 3, and 4. And when we have 4, we have value right now 4, then counter equals counter plus 1. So that's 5. And then while it is okay, counter less than 5 because now counter equals 5. So it says okay, the condition is not valid. So the loop is going to break up. Then the execution of this continue after the while. The while is not able to be executed because this condition is not valid. And this is the case. Also, you are able to just up one line for this while, and if you want, you could do it. Use it only one line and include the change of the value of the counter. Get the get the exact same um, result on your console. It must write from 1 to up to 4, and when counter is 5, then that value is going to change. Now, usually everything on C Sharp begins from 0, so it's a good way to use always that the first value or the first position of the first case that you validate begins at 0. This is because the arguments, the arrays always begin the first position. The first position is 0. It's not 1. So it's a good practice that everything that you create on a loop always begin on 0. It's the best practice. So sometimes you have to begin on another thing, but try that your first element on some execution or some loop is 0. So this is the way. Now clear screen .NET run. Now we are going to have 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we have 5 results from 0 up to 4. Just give me a second. Okay. Now now what we have here is now we have performed that. Now the main difference or the main point of the while is the following. Um, we have the while, and we have a condition for a condition that must be accomplished before doing this. Okay, so this means that if since the beginning, for example, int counter equals 10, since the beginning that condition is not accomplished, then the while is not going to be executed. Okay, so we have here counter equals 10, and when counter equals 10 since the beginning, you have that run, and the while loop has ended. It doesn't write up anything, and this is because the condition is not true. Counter equals 10. Okay, so while counter is less than 5, no, it's not less than 5 because it's 10, then continue with the execution after the curly braces. This is the main situation for them. We have to we have to get a true value here in the condition in order to at least execute once. So how are we able to perform at least one execution? And this is the way to do it. Instead of using a while, you could validate or um, perform a special validation so that every time counter is going to be true, at least the first execution. The other way is that you don't have to worry, you have to use a do while, and this is the way of how this works. It's do, and okay, Visual Studio Code writes up immediately. Let's see, while. Okay, while loop. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is another way. So I'm going to write up do, and then on .NET, on Visual Studio Code, you are able to use extensions. For these extensions, it's this option, that one that has kind of bricks. You have C sharp. You just have to write C sharp, and you have on the first one C sharp for Visual Studio Code. Right now, September 17th, it's version 1.23.15, and this one is going to bring you something to develop your C sharp and validation and, and get some help. Like development tools for the core C sharp editing support, including syntax, highlighting, italicized code to definition and references, debug support for .NET Core, and support for projects and CS approach project on Windows. So this way is how I get this code snippet. Mhm. And that way you are not going to spend too much time writing too much code. Let's wait for this to work. Okay. program. Okay, so I just have to write for this condition for in order to use that snippet. I have you just have to write the reserved word, and then it must appears with this square, not the ABC, the square, and then you press enter key, and then everything's is green. So what do we have here? We have a situation where console dot write line, this is going to be executed. Okay, value right now equals counter. Okay, let's wait for this. Yeah, counter. So and then counter equals counter plus 1. Again, you are able to change this, and the condition for this case, the condition goes at the end. So counter less than 5. Okay, I'm going to change this. So I'm going to do counter equals 0. Let's wait for this. Meanwhile, I have to answer a message. Um, counter equals 0. So now we have, I'm going to comment this. Understand why this happens. Okay, we have this. Now we have the counter, and this counter equals 0. So this is going to happen at least once. Value right now equals counter, then counter equals counter plus 1, and then the do while validates the condition. If counter is less than 5, it does again. But if counter is not less than 5, then it is not going to happen. So for this case, after that, the do while loop has ended. Clear screen, .NET run. Let's see what happens. Okay. Now we have value right now 0 because counter begins at 0. then value right 1, 2, 3, 4, and at the end of 4, counter equals counter plus 1. So 4 plus 1 is 5, while counter less than 5, counter out is 5, it's not less than 5. Um, Counter equals 5, it's not less than 5, so this is false. Then it continues to the while loop extended. What this this is a way to validate that at least once this is going to happen. If I place, I'm going to change the value of counter. So instead of counter, I'm going to use Visual Studio. Most perform. Okay, you are slow. Good. 10. Okay, so I'm going to change it to 10 because because the validation is at the end of the loop. We are going to have at least one execution, so this is going to be executed and then the validation is going to take place. If the validation is not accomplished, then the execution is going to continue to the do while loop has ended. So we have this .NET run, and as you see, this is going to write up value right now equals 10. Yeah, and then the while loop has ended. This is a different situation with the while, because the while, if you don't have the correct that if the validation is not true, it's not going to be executed. On the other hand, with value right now, with the do while, we have that the execution must be done at least once, and then the validation takes place. And if the validation is not true, then it continues. If yes, it does again the same execution as before. This is the case for the do while. Now the for. For is the condition when you have, you know that you, by default is the loop where you are going to iterate around certain numbers. So how you write up this is for, and then you place the parentheses. I'm not going to use the code snippet so that I'm able to do it and to explain it. You are able to declare a variable, and that variable is the one that is going to handle the condition. So you have, you know that you are going to loop, you know that you are between some values, so you are going to place the values that you have, and then after that, you know those values, you are going, you have a beginning and you have an end. Okay, so for this case I'm going to do it this way: for int counter, and you have to initialize this counter equals 0. Okay, for this is my loop for, and okay, for counter of the type int equals 0, semicolon. Now I have to write up a condition: counter less than 5, at the same as above, and then we have semicolon. And now at the end of this statement, at the end of the curly braces for this statement, is going to execute something by default. Always is going to execute that one. So for this one, it's going to be counter, and it could be counter plus 1. But for this case, we are not able to execute this. We need to just do one operation. So it is going to be counter plus plus. Remember that counter plus plus increases by 1 the value of your variable. Now, okay, got it. For counter, need this. Now, for encounter, okay, and then enter, place curly braces, and then this is going to be executed. Console dot write line parenthesis value right now, and I'm going to write up counter. For this counter, we have now .NET run is going very slow. I have to understand. That's an error, variable or pointer. Oh, I'm not. I have the error counter before. Only for these cases, um, since C language, language C and C++, there's a kind of standard. It's more, it's just like not grown up standard. But always, if you are using a for, you use int I as the name of the variable, so you don't have to write too much. I and you have this case. Okay, so I'm not able to declare a counter because counter is declared here, and here I have another declaration. So for this, I'm going to use just int I equals 0. So clear screen .NET run, and now let's see. Okay, now we have value right now 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and what's going on? Console red line, the for loop has ended. Okay, now what's going on? Okay, you begin the for, so the begin is the thing is going to be executed at the beginning and the very beginning of the loop. So in I equals 1. You don't have to use always a declaration. In you are able to use the declaration int I, and then what you always need to do is the set up the set value of your variable. So you have to write here, okay, I is going to begin on 0. Its first value is 0. So you remove the int word, then for this have okay int I. You don't have to declare .NET, okay, .NET run. That's going to work also. Sorry, I didn't place the semicolon here. Screen.NET run. So you have here, it's the same, the very same value, the very same result value right now 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and at the end 4, the for loop has ended. You can use the internal declaration, and if you don't want to use the setting up the value of the variable here, able to just perform that outside. So we'll have equal 1 int I equals 1. Then you just have to write the name of the variable you are going to use. So for this case, we are going to have same. Sorry for this delay, but should the is really slow. I don't understand why. I don't know if it's about the transmission or the I don't know. So maybe an internal process. So here we have this, and we just have to remove the assignation at the beginning of this, and there you go. This is going to begin on 1.NET Run. Okay. Only oh, okay. We need an assignation, and this assignation, I don't know if it could be this way. .NET Run. If not, then you always have to set this variable to some value. Okay, yeah. The variable counter, assignation of the same variable. Okay, you just have a warning. Assignation of the same variable. Do you want to say another element? Because we have I equals I. This is a trick. But the usual way to use it is equals 0 or 1. Even you are able to set up this to 1. There's no problem. Usually it always begins on 0. As I told you, because the first element of a collection or an array is 0. Its position is 0. Now you have here the value, and basically this is it. The same you do this, I suppose you are able to use the other operator. I think this, and just remember that this way. Gosh, I need to validate what's going on. This visual is really slow, guys. Okay, so now for this case, I'm going to do I equals 10. And every time that the loop execute, um, it's going to reduce its value of I to by 1. Well, it's going to reduce its value by 1. So .NET Run, this is going to begin on 10. So okay, the condition. Okay, why we got this one? The 4 was not executed, but well, this is because we have int I equals 10, and the condition to execute this loop is I less than 5. So because I equals 10, I is not less than 5, so this is not true, and then it goes out of these curly braces and execute the code, the next code. We have to change the condition. So the condition for this is I is greater than 5. At the end of the execution of this, it's going to happen I less less. So I is going to be equals I less 1. .NET Run. Now we have, now we have value right now 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. And when we have 6, the value right now, then this action is executed I less less. So instead of 6, now is 5. and it validates. After this decrease, we have a validation. Okay, I is greater than 5, yes or no? No, because now I is 5. So it goes out of the for loop and continue with the execution of the next lines the for loop has ended. And well, why we will use a for? Because sometimes we have an array. Sometimes we have an array. Hey, man, so slow. Mm, array with values. Okay, I don't understand why it's taking so much time. But well, this is not funny. String. I'm going to use a string with 7 values. Okay, so now we have my array with values 0 equals the first value at position 0 to use the strict first values at position 0 uh, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 7. Okay, 5 6 7. The 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. The value at position and this is it. In some cases we are going to have an array, and this array, and we need to get the values from that array. So for this case we have for int I equals 0, I less than my array values dot length. I plus plus. So now console write line is going to do value found at the position I. Come on. and its value is my array value I. Now let's see. 10 to 10 to 10 to 10 to 10 sharp. Okay, now it's working. My array with values. Hmm, I don't know what was on there. It looked weird. Okay, so now I have this. The loop, the for loop has ended. So I'm going to comment this one. Well, I'm just to let you know. We have here the for. We're going to have the values, and now clear screen. .NET. Okay. Now for this we have semicolon. 49. Yeah. Sorry. That's semicolon, not comma. .NET. Right. Yeah, I don't understand what's going on. So usually together, it's not taking too much time to respond. Okay, but you already know 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Then we'll begin with this had option in this side. Mm. 9, 7. Oh yeah, so I created a string array of 7 values, but that 7 position means we have from position 0 up to 6, because if you count them, you have 7. Yeah, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and the 7th position is at 6th position, so I have to delete that as one. This is an error because your array only has 7 position, not 8. Again, clear screen, let's run. This is a good one. Yes, so we have value right now 10, 9, 8, 6, and maybe you have not noticed, but we have the int I equals 10 here, and we have another declaration of int. Why is it valid and in the previous example with counter it wasn't? This is because the creation of this variable is into and only assigned into the for statement. This for statement has an int variable with the name of I, and this other for statement has another variable with the same name of I, but it doesn't refers to the same variable. The situation why you are not able to declare another variable is because if I have here int I equals 5, and then we have again for int I equals 0, we have the declaration of the same variable, and here the application has this variable I, and then into the for you also have the declaration of I, and you are able to use the other I that you are declaring here. So for this case, it's going to send you an error because you have declared your variable before the execution, and this way we are getting these errors. A variable local or a parameter with the denomination I cannot be declared in this ambit because that name is being used in another local environment that involves this environment to define the variable, the local variable or parameter. So this is the condition. And because you have the same name of the same variable, but you have different environments, and these environments are related to for clause. These for clause have information, separated information. So this for has an int I variable, and this one has another one. But these two don't collide. Thus, if you do something like this, for int I equals 0, I less than 10, less than 10, I plus plus. If you do this, you are going to have the same issue because you have a variable with the name I declared here and another variable with the I name declared here. That is going to send you an error. The best way to do this, if you need nested loops, is that it's I maybe use a letter or another name. So this could be with G. I usually use I, J, K for the loops. I have not needed to use more than 3 uh, nested loops. And this way, this is going to just validate and remember to validate. You, you are here using instead of the I, you are using the O variable because sometimes this is a common mistake that you just paste the for clause from above and you forget to change the name of the variable. So instead of having here variable I 10 5 greater than 5 and 1, here you copy that one and place here, and you are using the J because the compiler is sending an error, but you don't change the condition and the increment clause. So for this thing, we're going to have this, and you have this value found at 0, the first value at position 0, value found at 1, position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And this way, you are able to loop into the elements that that exist on your array. Another way to do this is the for each loop. So instead of using for int I, sometimes you don't have exactly a position like in dictionaries or in another type of array structures. So instead of using that one, you are before that, if you use the code snippet, you will have for, and then you select this for, enter, and it declares int I. By default, it uses I because this is like a non-written rule. I less than the length that you want. For this case, I can change it to that, to 10, and then you are able to, this is going to increase by 1. That's the easiest way. Just write up 4 and then enter, and you have this. I didn't do it that way because I won't be able to explain, and you will have a lot of information when I write up that. Then the other loop is for each. This one. Sorry, I missed this. Surprise. So the for each, you have to write for each. For each is like the two words, but you have to write them together. For each, and this means for each element. So what does that mean? A string item I have a variable with the name of the type string with the name of item in my array with values. So what this is going to do, console write line value found, and then we have item. Okay, what is this going to do? Well, this is going to do the following. You have the condition for each loop has ended. Come on, don't take too much time. I really hate when this happens. You're explaining you're doing something at a good speed. We have this. Okay. So now, what's going to happen here? We have value found for each loop. It's going to do here. Well, for each element at, at your collection, in this case, array values, you are going to place value the item variable. This item variable is going to keep that information. So that's why we are writing here console.writeLine value found item. So in the previous case, you know the position, you need to choose 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is why we are using 4. This allows 4. Because we have declared I equals 0, I less than my array with values dot length and I plus plus. So for that, for this, we are getting the value of each one of the position by position. For this case, you don't have to do that. You only need to store the value of each one of the position into a variable, and that variable is what you are going to use. You don't care about the position, you only care about the value of your of that position, and the compiler is going to take the responsibility about the position. It goes from position from 0 up to the last one, or in the order that your collection has the values. That's very important because you sometimes have collections that are not sorted, or are sorted by first in, first out, or first in, last out, or uh, by alphabetical order, like in a dictionary. You will have the first elements with the A, the second elements, the other element, the next elements with B, and the next ones with C, and things like that, because of the key. But for this case, for the case of the arrays, this is going to use from 0 up to the last position. So here, this is easier because you don't have to declare a variable with the type of int and look for the position at that number and then increase that variable. You just have to, that the same way is being done with less lines of code, with less information into the code, not less lines because it's only 2 lines, but here you have to declare a variable, use that variable into a condition, and then increase that variable by some kind of value. For this case, you will have another thing, and this is only, I have to declare my item where I'm going to have the value in the array or the collection that I need to get the information from, and then that's it. Okay, so I'm going to execute it, and this is going to get the same exact situation, the same result as the previous one. So value found at 0, the first value position. This is using positions, and this one is using only the items. Value found, the first variable at position 0. It works exactly the same. The only advantage of using this one is that you have the information about the position where you are at, and the advantage of the last one for each is that you don't need to get the position. You just need to get the value of the item you want to to use. Basically, this is it. You able to do a code snippet. That code snippet is going to be for each Visual Studio Code. Be lazy. Oh, keep waiting. Okay, I have average. Only delete for each for each. You have to use this one, the one with the square for each. That's for each. Yeah, use this one. And then you have the var item in collection. It's the same. You just have to replace the values here. Let's see. I don't believe it. Okay, for each. Yeah. And then my array with values, collection, item, and this one is the same. Remember that also in C# 8 and 9 we have the declaration of var instead of the specific type of the variable. But remember that after the first assignation of value, this variable is going to be always that type of value. So this is the same value found with var. It just make it easier, because if you don't know exactly what you're going to receive, clear screen, .NET run, run, and yeah, value found with var, we have the same thing. For this is supposed that the item is going to always be a string type. So you are only able to send it string variables, nothing else. Okay. With this we have covered some exercises about the loops. You just need to read. Let's see. Wait. We have the while, do while, and the loop, the for each. Mm. Yeah, this is it. The next thing could be the casting and converting between types. So in that case, when you have an integer, you are able to pass through a double, or vice versa. You have a double and then send that to an integer, and, that will be the way to do this. Well, see you in the next streaming. I hope that you are enjoying these explanations about how to about the exercises with .NET, C# 9, and .NET 5. If you have questions or you have comments about this, or if you want to stop me by to talk in deep about a certain topic, let me know, and I'd be glad to explain that to you. And the next time we are going to do some exercises about casting and converting between types, and some examples about that. Um, it's not really hard, and maybe after that we are going to get maybe more advanced topics, because now we will need to create a class and understand some basic topics that are really important about in inherence, overriding, um, the shadow or the virtual methods, and another topics. Uh, let let's get prepared for the next steps. And meanwhile, I'm really glad that you enjoyed this streaming. I'm really glad if you are following my channel on YouTube, and see you on the next week. Bye bye.